welcome to our new friends. I hope friends from here on from AKT. And if you could just have a quick round of introductions of who you are.
My name is Alex. My pronouns are he, him. I'm one of the fundraising managers at AKT. You might know AKT as the Albert Kennedy Trust. My work specifically is in about engaging people with the charity to learn about the work we do and also to find ways for people to support the charity.
Hiya, thank you for having me here today. My name is Helen, pronouns she, her, and I'm a senior caseworker based in our Northeast office. So AKT is national in the UK, but I cover the Northeast. So my role involves working kind of frontline with the young people that we support. So I have a caseload of young people that I work with. And support them with various things, primarily focusing on kind of housing and homelessness.
The charity, the charity's kind of a wider priority is to provide safe, secure housing and help LGBTQ plus young people start building brighter futures. Helen can speak a bit more sort of fluidly on the individual services that we provide. Um, but we've been around 34 years since 1989. Um, yeah, founded in 1989 by a wonderful lady called Kath Hall, who was a foster carer at the time in the Manchester area, so northwest England. Um, and this is at a time when the political and press attitudes towards the LGBT community, particularly gay men and lesbian women, was very hostile, was very unsupportive. And so at this time, our founder, Kath, was already a foster carer, but she recognized that there was a huge lack of support and a huge need for support for young LGBTQ plus people who were having difficult times in a family home or had needed to escape from a family home, and there just weren't foster carers available or willing to help support those young people who needed to find a new place to live. And so basically, she really stepped up to that and founded AKT.
I mean, we support people in the LGBTQ plus community, young people, so age 16 to 25, who are homeless, living in a hostile environment, or they're worried about their living situation in any sort of way. And we can provide support to find a new home. We can help them to navigate services such as benefits, social services, advocating with local authorities. And we have financial support to help young people get into private rented accommodation as well, which is more and more difficult at the moment for people to access, especially young people in the LGBTQ plus community. We can also use this financial support for gender affirming items such as deed polls, binders. Recently, I've supported young people to apply for new passports in their names. And we work with young people to identify their individual support needs, and we can then help them to access specialised services outside of AKT.
Community. Why is the LGBT plus community, perhaps in the UK, for example, particularly affected or has to be mindful of the challenges or the threats of homelessness?
In my experience from working with the young people, things that have came up for them are struggling with long waiting lists for gender affirming care. So where I am in the UK is in the Northeast, and in the Northeast this is currently 5-year waiting list, and new referrals have actually been they've been paused, so they're not accepting new referrals at the minute. This can cause, a huge impact on mental health, their confidence, their self-esteem, their motivation to kind of make those changes with their housing. If they're in an abusive situation, they may not have the confidence to kind of take those next steps. Um, and it also increases the risk that particularly our young trans people will buy unregulated hormones online, which could cause them health issues. I've seen an increased number of referrals from asylum seekers and refugees who've had to flee their country due to threats of violence or being killed because of their gender or sexuality. Um, with, young LGBTQ plus young people, 1 in 5 have experienced homelessness at some point in their life. So in my role as a caseworker, the main goal for a lot of them is to gain that long-term safe and secure accommodation where they can thrive and be their true selves. I work really hard to make sure that the options given to them will be long-term, because you often see the cycle can repeat itself. They could go from one unsafe place to the next. So it's really a key part of the role to kind of make sure that that accommodation is sustainable.
Yeah, and like you said with the whole like community thing, it might feel like it's only a small element of it, but like if you are having to move repeatedly, having a community that you can keep referring to and talking to and having like a safe space for you to be able to just
Absolutely.
have someone to talk to is really good, like
Yeah,
really important.
absolutely. A lot of young people can feel incredibly isolated, and that kind of no one understands them, and they don't have any kind of consistency with like friendships and family
Yeah.
members. So having that consistency, like consistent support, is like invaluable. It's so important.
If someone's deciding, I only have £5 or £10 to donate, what can that really do? Can that really make a difference if me and my friends just donate our pocket money?
It really is one of those things where whatever you can give is absolutely phenomenal. And I know it sounds a little bit cheesy and a little bit sort of old hat, but it's true. It really is true, because the levels of support that we provide to each young person that we work with is individual. It's really, there is no kind of set pack of support that we provide to every single person, because every single person's needs are completely individual. If somebody can give as little as £5 or £10, or whatever the relevant currency is, whatever the equivalent currency amount is, even sort of very basic things like helping us to be able to pay for a young person's top-up credit or something like that on a mobile phone. Those sorts of smaller donations are incredibly vital, because, as I think we probably all recognize and probably all appreciate, that somebody's access to a mobile phone in today's age is basically how we just live. It's how we all navigate our lives.
The Rainbow Starter Pack that we have is completely individual to the young person. Phones, so that's something else. We can provide a phone and we can provide a top up. I've done that in situations where young people are still living in the family home and are trying to make a plan of getting out of that situation, and having a second phone with emergency numbers on where they would need to contact if they had to leave in the middle of the night. And AKT contact details so they can get in touch with us the following day. That's really important. Supermarket vouchers for people who haven't got enough, food and essentials in. The Rainbow Starter Pack can also be used for their first shop for when they move in, so they can get like a decent amount in, that can last them a little while. So really, it's completely individual to the young person. I've put requests in for, stuff that I wouldn't for another young person. It just depends what they need, and if we can help, then we will.
That sounds wonderful. And Alex, you have a good point about people should give what they are comfortable in giving. And for some people, what they are comfortable in giving is also spreading the word. If you're the kind of person that solicits donations for your birthdays or the milestones, drop a line about AKT. I know AKT does a lot of work with other people in the community, streamers and other gamers. Roll for Good is not the only ones who recognize AKT's work. Support them, visit them, repost, retweet, talk about it on your reels and your talks. These kind of things help. They get the word out. And hopefully they do translate down the line into a financial gain, even if you just started the ball rolling. So these things matter too.
Absolutely. So last year we worked with a young person called Lawrence, who is a bisexual trans man whose family and home became hostile to him after he came out, which is a very common thing that happens with the young people, a lot of the young people who we're supporting. Lawrence managed to leave his house when he turned 18, but then became totally estranged from his abusive family. He had nowhere permanent to go, so Lawrence had to sofa surf until he was able to move into a small room in a private house. However, the landlord didn't provide him with a tenancy agreement when he moved in, and his deposit also wasn't protected. And so basically, that meant that Lawrence had limited housing rights and protections, and the landlord repeatedly increased the rent with no warning. When the cost of, as exactly as we've just mentioned, the cost of living crisis basically hit and continued to escalate. Lawrence understandably wanted to find somewhere safer to live, so he approached us. He came to AKT in December last year, so 2022. He was really concerned about landlords being transphobic, and was waiting also for a new ID that reflected his name and gender. However, shortly after coming into contact with us, Lawrence's landlord told him to leave within 2 weeks. And because of the lack of the tenancy agreement, Lawrence essentially had no protection, and his landlord kept his whole deposit. AKT worked with Lawrence to discuss and to find out what his housing options were. And then one of our caseworkers helped Lawrence to attain support from his university and also petitioned them to allow him to move into a student accommodation. We then helped Lawrence manage his finances, and exactly as we've just mentioned previously, we helped him with a Rainbow Starter Pack to cover the cost of the first month's rent and the deposit for his new accommodation. And our independent living fund also provided Lawrence with an Oyster card. So for those of you who don't live in or around London, that's the kind of the way that it's like a little card that we use to get around the city in the public transport. So we helped him with an Oyster card, which allowed him to travel to university and to work, and really just helped relieve some of that sort of financial stress as well. We provided food bank vouchers so that Lawrence could access essential food. And we signposted him to another organization called Gallup, which also works in the UK, for some more, some more specialist support for his kind of a historic domestic abuse. So now, up to where we are now, Lawrence is going to continue living in a student accommodation till the end of the academic year. He'll then explore options in the private rented sector. But thanks to the work that we did with Lawrence, he now has time to figure out how he wants to sort of navigate his future. But for now, he's completing his studies and also wants to become a carer in the future. So that's just one example of one young person's experience with AKT. It gives you a bit of insight into the sort of work we do, but I do want to stress that that is by no means the sort of journey that every young person takes with AKT, because really we want to tailor the support that we give individually to that person's needs specifically.
Again, it's that situation of like every little thing helps. So it's alleviating pressure in two places at the same time. So you're alleviating the pressure of all the concerns about accommodation itself. So you're helping with that, and then you're helping with the money part of it as well as the actual information part of it, because just going out on your own and trying to find that information when you're desperate is so incredibly difficult. To have that help on the side of here's some information, here's some money to get you started, let's alleviate that immediate pressure. But then the other side of that being like, okay, let's also alleviate the thought processes and the pressure that comes with you trying to realize yourself at the same time and try and prove yourself at the same time, as like suddenly you're on your own, you have to be an individual doing it. So you've got a charity here that is helping you and talking to you as you see yourself, is the second level of alleviating pressure on yourself. It's just really, yeah, it's really cool how those two things are both happening at the same time.
One of the things we keep mentioning is community, and that is something that Roll for Good has tried to grow within our hobby of ttrpgs. That's sort of what Roll for Good does. Alex and Helen, are you familiar with tabletop role-playing games? What do you know about those?
I am familiar with, but I've never played. I am a gamer in general, but more sort of video games than TTRPGs. Um, I'm very interested in learning more about it. I didn't know a huge amount about them in general until we sort of started speaking a few weeks ago. Um, but yeah, my experience is more in sort of video games.
What about you, Helen?
Yeah, I'm the same, and not really any personal experience. I mean, my house is, I've got two boys in my house, and my daughter, and they are all, PlayStations and Xboxes and online games and things like that. So I see games and things going on in the house, but I don't ever get involved myself. However, young people that I work with, they often mention that as something as a kind of escape for them and a sense of community. And I'm sure it was already mentioned, but something they can kind of take from place to place. It doesn't matter where they are. They would always have that community. So they often do mention that to me. So I know the benefits and how safe they feel within communities. So it's a huge thing for young people, definitely.
We've got a lot of LGBT plus people who are involved in the TTRPG community, generally in the UK and EU, as well as neurodivergent people being involved in stuff like that. And like you say, it's an escape. It's somewhere where you get to play around and you get to do improv and character creation and stuff like that. And you get to have a play around in a universe that you've already built the rules for and decided what's applicable and what's okay. And you can make your own safe space. And for community, it's a really quick and easy way to find like-minded people, because as soon as you found those nerds who are really into TTRPG, you know that they're your people.
I love the fantasy escapism element about TTRPGs. As the wizard, as the knight, as the martial artist, you have the means to take down the isms in that world. You have the means to kick the bad guy, to kick the figure of all the ills that is destroying your world or universe, and be the hero, which is something that we can't do everyday life. I cannot single-handedly, like Marvel superheroes, go out and save the universe, but in my TTRPGs, I could potentially, and I'm not going to do it alone. I'm going to do it with a camaraderie of people that we've built up relationships with. I hope you'll be playing with us a TTRPG of your choice. There's lots of different colored dice you can roll.
What an incentive.
Don't knock it. I mean, you'll become a dice goblin within no time. You'll have like
territory.
bags of them. Yeah.
But thank you very, very much. Oh my goodness.
Literally.
That was
Okay.
so
Like
sneakily.
we're just showing our like displays of dice.
Oh, wow.
This is a real thing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's great, but also a threat.
But I want to say thank you so much for having us join you and tell you a bit about what we do and how we do it and who we're supporting. It is really, really, really useful to us. Very, very valuable to be able to get the word out. And as I mentioned, if people can find us on social media at AKT Charity, give us a follow. Any of the posts that you see that you think should be seen by other people, please do share them on.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the discussion. I think it's been, a really good opportunity to kind of highlight the kind of the really important work that we do, and just really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work, and all the best to AKT, its endeavors, and the people who you are helping. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.